In a post on X on the 29th of April, the leader of opposition, Sri Rahul Gandhi, has questioned the Great Nicobar project and said that it is not a project. He says, this is not development, this is destruction dressed in development's language. He has further posted, what is being done in the Great Nicobar is one of the biggest scams and gravest of crimes against the country's natural and tribal heritage in our lifetime. Incidentally, he has not spoken on the economic, strategic, and military benefits of the project. And Rahul Gandhi is not the first politician to speak about the project. In a September 2025 editorial in The Hindu, the Congress Party Parliamentary Chairperson Srimati Sonia Gandhi described the project as an existential danger to the island's indigenous population, the Shompen tribe, and a threat to their distinctive ecosystem. The Great Nicobar project involves the following: International Container Transshipment Terminal, 14.2 million TEU, which means 20 feet equivalent; Greenfield International Airport with a capacity of 4,000 peak hour passengers; township and area development; 450 MVA gas and solar based power plant in the Great Nicobar Islands. Now, this airport will also function as a dual-use airport supporting rapid military deployment, making it a truly forward base, extending India's surveillance, logistics, and power projection capabilities. To understand the environmental, economic, and strategic imperatives and put the political concerns into perspective, today I am being joined by Lieutenant General Ajai Singh, who is a fifth generation army officer with the family's legacy with the army starting from 1858. General Ajai Singh knows the Great Nicobar project like few others do, having seen the conceptualization as Commander-in-Chief Andaman and Nicobar Command, SINCAN. Welcome to Samvad, sir.
Thank you, Mayank. Thank you for having me on your show and considering me suitable enough to be here to talk to you.
I consider you as the authority, and it is most appropriate, and I'm privileged that you've given me time to speak on a subject which is being sensationalized for reasons best known to the people who are sensationalizing them. Without most of the people don't even know the facts. So you are the authority, sir. I am honored to have you on the show. Thank you so much, sir.
Kind of you. I'm no authority, but yes, I have had 2 years of experience there and I've read up a lot on the subject while I was there and later. So thank you for having me on your show.
Sir, we'll come straight to the topic then, sir. The leader of opposition has raised very strong issues, called it a scam, destruction dressed up as development, very strong words. And he's basically, I mean, I should be putting it into perspective. He's talking about the ecological portion. He's not saying a word about military strategy or economy. So that is what he's referring to, but very strong words. So before venturing into the ecological concerns he's raised, sir, I'll put straight away come to you with two straight questions, sir. First, what is this Great Nicobar project all about? And then after that, I'll ask you to continue with the ecological concerns he's raised and ask you to address the concerns.
Mayank, anyone listening to your show, I've been reading up on this. I saw that tweet, which was, I felt very unhappy to see that tweet. Anyone has a right to ask whose views does he represent? Because I find that the views on this subject are very polarized on party lines. And people who think and act out on party lines, for them, it is always my party, right or wrong. And I have had no political affiliation. In fact, I have not even voted other than once. Because I remember I was doing a 1 year course in the UK as a brigadier, 2013-14. And there's an anecdote I'll share with you. I had a good friend of mine, Brigadier Martin Smith, went on to be a major general. And I asked him, the first Brexit was too close to call, so the British had a second Brexit. And I said, Martin, what's your view on Brexit? And he said, Brigadier, I have no view. And I thought maybe in the environs of the office, he was hesitant to talk. So I asked him once in the evening of office hours, and he said the same. And we went abroad and I asked him, I thought, apni dharti mata pe nahi jawab de raha hai, so let me ask him. And he said, this is the third time you're asking me, Ajay. I have no view. I said, Martin, how can you not have a view on Brexit? It's such a raging subject in UK. And he said, it's crown policy. I represent my crown. If I start having a view on crown policy, I will not strengthen my crown. So I believed in it. At every rank, I tell people you must vote. But I've never voted because my allegiance is to our country. And it's my country, right or wrong, not my party, right or wrong. I mean, I speak from personal experience. There was a Colonel Mushtan who was in the army for 24 years and in politics for 26. Passed away, I think, 2004, more than 22 years ago. And on 10th of July, the day he passed away, there is a memorial lecture often held in his memory. In 2010, I was privileged to attend one such memorial lecture. On stage was Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia, the communication minister. And the other speaker was Mr. Shivraj Chauhan, the chief minister of Madhya Pradesh. And Mr. Scindia spoke very well. I would have given him Stanford debating or whatever for part of his introduction, 100 on 100. And when Shivrajji came, he spoke with so much of humility, and I would have given him 300 on 100. But one of the things he says, I see this leaflet, once a soldier, always a soldier. He said, जब मैं राजनीति सीख रहा था तो I think सुंदरलाल पटवा जी ने बोला मुश्तान साहब के पास जाएं. And I spent 3 months with him as his apprentice and was going around with him everywhere. And he accepted me, though he was from the opposing party. And I learned my politics from him. He says, but today's politics, आज की राजनीति ऐसी हो गई है, अगर दूसरा वाला अच्छा काम भी करे तो हम उसको बुरा ही बोलेंगे, और बुरा काम करे तो हम बोलेंगे ही बोलेंगे. So I took that as a takeaway 16 years ago, and the only time I voted, it was 2014. I'd come back from UK, my father had passed away. And when I volunteered at 36 years of age for a tenure on Siachen. And there was a Dr. Amar Singh who was in my small fiberglass hut. We were sleeping on wooden beds and taking each other's BP at 19,000 feet. And he belonged to Meerut. So people come to pay condolence till the Tervi, and he came once with a lot of malas and all in a jaloos and walked into the gate. And I said, Himansh, what are you doing here? Sir, mujhe Lok Sabha ka ticket mila hua hai. I said, what? So I won't even say which party. He lost his deposit, incidentally. So that's the only time I went to vote, because once we had killed some enemy, they had killed some people back. 5 of our people we sustained at night between him and himself and 2, 3 others till the helicopters could come. So the only time I went to vote to see how voting is done is to vote for Himansh, because he saved my soldiers, and not for any party. He was not part of these two leading parties, and he lost his deposit. And I think mine was one of those 500 odd votes that he got, or whatever he got. So I went and saw how it's done. But I believe that I don't want to identify with someone. Why am I taking time to clarify this? Because on this polarized subject, I have strong views. We need it for our country. We need it done yesterday. And I don't know why people are politicizing it in this manner, which is really unfair. Take your politics outside national security. Do what you have to. And otherwise, I will ask you some basic questions. I've put some slides together for you. And you can see on one of the slides, we have those straits or the gaps where east-west trade traffic goes. Yes, we talk of Malacca. There is Sunda, there is Lombok, there's Mumbai, there is Betar, there's Sumba. And each one of these has a penalty, another 3 days, another 3 days, and whatever. But more important, if you look at these groups of islands, I would like to ask Mr. Rahul Gandhi, your great-grandfather got the extra land in the 50s from the Nicobarese tribal leader. And he gave a quote. There's an Indian Express article on this. It can be Googled and searched. He got those extra lands to expand our Air Force station at Car Nicobar. Where was all these considerations that time? Mr. Gandhi often quotes him in Parliament. Let's keep national security above all this. I put another map for you. The Andaman and Nicobar group of islands. There is a Andaman trunk road being made where these people who used to come, there's a lot of YouTube videos going around. Okay, people cannot reach Port Blair, where better medical facilities are available because the broken nature of the road. There's very heavy rainfall there. Now that that road has been made so beautiful by the government over the last 5, 7 years, they didn't object that Humphrey Strait पे mangroves को क्या हुआ पेड़ काटे थे समुद्र के बीच में पिलर लगाए and you made a beautiful expressway. Where were the objections there? No one objected the great Andamanese who are in the reserve areas there. What about the other tribals? There's another slide I put for you. The Jarawas on the Jarava Reserve, 150 square kilometers. How many? The biggest tribe is 380, other than the Nicobaris, who are fully assimilated. So let's talk of the tribals from that. What about the Jarawas, who are on 1/10 the size or 1/8 the size of what the Great Nicobar Island is? You are suddenly discovering 229 Shompen over an area 25% bigger than Singapore, will have suddenly lesser area to inhabit. These shy, peace-loving people who are just hunters, gatherers, and keep to themselves. And if you know what you're talking about, look at another slide. I put a slide of the Nicobar group of islands and the Andaman group of islands. If you look at the Nicobar group of islands, they are disparate islands. The whole population of Andaman Nicobar command as per the 2011 census. Now, in our polarized politics, you will say, ye census uska, ye uska. Arey, 2011 census was done under UPA regime. And the census gave a projected figure of 2021. This is census documents available on internet. Nothing I'm going to talk to you about is classified information. Yes, from June 21 for 2 years, I had the privilege to be appointed commander-in-chief. These things were under development there. It was my charter to protect the 826 islands and our 836 islands and the economic zone around them. The coastline, our EEZ represents 30% of India's EEZ, 26% of our coastline. These islands represent. I would commend that Mr. Rahul Gandhi reads how these islands came to India in the first place. Jinnah and Mr. Nehru fought over them bitterly. The British wanted to retain them like Diego Garcia. In 1965, Indonesia claimed some of the islands of the Nicobar group. And if you go into the history of the tribals there, the Andaman group tribals have aborigine features. It is said that from Paleolithic age or wherever it is, they have more features similar to the Negroid features who come from African continent. Whereas if you look at the Arakan landmass, there's contiguity between Indonesia, all the Malay Peninsula coming down to Indonesia and the Nicobar group of islands, and their features are more of the Mongoloid features. So feature-wise also the Nicobaris are distinct and different from the original inhabitants of the Andaman Islands. And from when the cellular jail Kalapani was established there were many people who settled there. So when you look at 3.8 total population, 1.5 lakhs at Port Blair, the remaining is, I have the figures somewhere, the remaining are distributed all over the rest of the islands. So when you look at this, our old population figures, they tell their own story. I think, just cut here. I will just tell you, start here. This portion can be cut because these are important figures. Okay, we can start. 2011 census said population of Andaman Nicobar Islands, total population is 380,581. The Nicobar group of islands has 36,842 people, out of which the Shompen tribe, when you say when you say the Nicobaris are 27,168. Most of them are Christians. They have been fully assimilated in society. Do you know that the top nationalist cyclists of India are from the Nicobari tribe? Even last month, in the month of March, we've commenced May. There were Nicobaris who are representing India, boy and girl, who are part of our national team. Esco Album, 2018, 19-year-old track cyclist, first Indian to win medals at Cycling World Championship. Deborah Herald, first Indian to make UCI rankings, 2015. We're talking of the Asian track cycling in Philippines, last month, which has been conducted. David Beckham, Elkato Chongo, amongst the men, and Celestina amongst the ladies. So Nicobaris, when you cry tears over the Nicobaris who are fully assimilated, Let's be honest, when you talk of tribals, you're not being honest to generate an argument along political lines. And we can when we think of country first, we must remain above politics. The Nicobarese population was 27,168. They were largely in the islands across Car Nicobar and Nancowry group. The Great Nicobar Island just has 1,889 of them. And they actually move between the islands to the north, which are their traditional areas, and come down here. And here also, when the government made tsunami relief huts in the northern part of Great Nicobar Island, which is the southernmost island when you saw the map, that is where some of these people reside. Now, I would like you to also see, I put another slide here, and all these are from the internet. Whatever data I have put about this project is from the project report, which is available on the internet. So if you look at that map, there is a road which was constructed in 2012. A track upgraded to the road. It was in a very bad state. Today, if Mr. Rahul Gandhi has reached Indira Point, it is because the Border Roads Organization has been doing yeoman service. And they've made that road up to Indira Point. And that first 36 kilometers, which was there earlier up to Shastri Nagar, it was in such a bad state that when they were given money to make the next kilometers up to 60, they first had to redo the first 36 and then start. The equipment couldn't reach kilometer 36 till that was done. Extra financial sanction was given to them. So do these islanders not have aspirations? अरे गर्भवती महिला को ड्यूरिंग प्रेगनेंसी या ड्यूरिंग डिलीवरी अगर पहुंचना है तहसील हेडक्वार्टर कैंपबेल बे में shouldn't she have a road to reach the hospital? Now she needs evacuation. The airport there is so small. It is available everywhere. 1,000 meters, you cannot have an aircraft like helicopter. You're waiting for Pavanans. Inclement weather, it may not come. We used to get so many demands. Please increase the runway length. Because there's a channel of water in front, the runway length cannot be increased. We have been saying, give a new airport runway, 3,000 meters length. And look at the number of people. You talk of Shompen. Let's talk about the Shompen. When you look at the map, there is an east-west road alignment. That east-west road alignment goes from Copenhagen up to Campbell Bay. At kilometer, it's 45-kilometer road. Halfway through, it's been left. Jungles and creepers have grown over because you don't want to interfere with the Shompen and their habitat. We have 2 territorial army battalions in Andaman. They are the sons of the soil. Do you know that the Shompen language is spoken by some of the islanders? I have interviewed some of them who are part of the territorial army battalion. He says at that where the road used to go up to, beyond which it's been left to be part of the wilderness now, there's a bus stand there. Any Shompen wants medical treatment. At that bus stand, the administration leads fruits and whatever. They come pick it up if they need it. They are hunter-gatherers. But they are also civilized. Some of those Shompen used to come to the bus stand and sit. If they had a pain, they would come up to Campbell Bay. They would get medically treated. They wouldn't speak much. There were some locals, 6, 7 of them who could speak the Shompen language. They would get treated and take the bus and go back into their habitat. So let's not treat them as like the North Sentinelese are on Sentinel Island and they are totally, it's prohibited to go there. We leave them in their habitat and there are just 15 of them as per the last census. But the Shompen is not in that category. The Nicobaris are not in that category. So let's not conflate the two out of getting an emotional argument and all or nothing. If you were so worried about the mangrove trees, why didn't you not object to the Andaman truck road? There were trees which were cut there. And look at the rest of the habitation. I've got the population figures here. If you look from 1965, the government got some ex-servicemen. There were 330 of them who were got in, not only from Punjab, from other areas also. And after the Indonesians laid claim to our southern islands, some of them, you need population. Look at what the Chinese are doing in the border villages on the north. They are developing. They've made airports, they've made railways, they've made roads. For whom? For a marginal population. Villages next to the borders. That's how you make your claim lines. We are not coveting the neighbor's wife or the neighbor's territory, but we have every right to protect our own. And what are the services asking? I mean, if you didn't understand Chanakya's advice in the Arthashastra, then you please read Clausewitz or some of the Western people you may want to read. What did Aristotle say? That the good of the many for the at the cost of the few. All right. Today, the population of Nicobar Islands, there were just about 1889 of the Nicobaris. They are fully assimilated. It's not the ex-servicemen and the others who came, they're fully assimilated. So when you talk of tribal rights, let's talk of only Shompen. And look at the map in front of you. They are already tribal reserves. These people who are settled, they are settled in, other than Campbell Bay Tehsil, there are only 6 islands which have population of more than 100. There are 11 or 12 others, small habitats where their family is residing. Some who do fishing in a particular area, so 10 of them stay together. So that total population is 880. And they're along the coast. And if you look at that map, whether it is Joginder Nagar, Vijay Nagar, Lakshmi Nagar, Gandhi Nagar, and Shasti Nagar, that 36 kilometers of the road, which has now been extended to the southernmost point, kilometer 60. From 36 beyond, there was no habitation. So it is along this western periphery, which came under the tsunami impact, that we are making this transshipment port, and where the draft is such that 23-meter draft ships can come in. Where you're making this, and there's some defense land to the southernmost part. It's all there on the internet. I put that slide, I pulled it out from the internet. And I've given a slide and you look at it. So you look, an island, 921 square kilometers, where Singapore was some 700 something. The size 921 square kilometers, Singapore is 728. So the size of Singapore is still left alone for 229 people. What are we talking about? And let's be honest, if it was not for Mr. Nehru, these islands wouldn't have been part of it. So today, if you are saying tree cutting here will make a difference on the Indian mainland weather, I'm sorry. Then let's start talking of Vanuatu Islands or those atolls or Guinea-Bissau or something. They will also make as much of a difference to weather on Indian mainland. As per Forest Survey, these are figures from the UPI government time. So I'm very careful on how things are polarized here. 94.68% forest cover. The only part of India which has so much forest cover. The next highest is Arunachal at 80%. So if 95% of forest cover becomes 94%, should national development be held jaundice to this? अरे बाबा इंडियन ऑथर नहीं पढ़ने, वेस्टर्न ऑथर पढ़ लो. मैस्लो ने नीड हायरार्की में क्या बोला था? रोटी कपड़ा मकान, you may not have watched the picture. But Maslow's need hierarchy said that till life and physical safety and security is ensured, higher level needs do not appeal to anyone. आज तो गरीब रिक्शा वाला, आज की दिहाड़ी नहीं आई तो घर में पैसे बच्चे भूखे रहते हैं. He's not interested with your politics. But the politician understands where the pulse of the majority of our people lie. That's why these pre-polls, SOPs and freebies which are promised. So you are fully in touch with the pulse of the people. So evidently you know what Maslow's need hierarchy is. And I'm talking across the political spectrum. So if need hierarchy says that till the basic physiological needs are not met, the higher needs are not motivating enough. So I would like to ask you, what was advice given by Chanakya to the king of Magad? Till your borders are not secure, your granaries will not be full, your people cannot do business. It's not today, they say that it's not the army. I mean, it's a generic term, Army, Navy, Air Force, Defense Services, BSF, whatever else. We do our bit by saying that it is not the army who fights, it's the whole of the nation. Are Baba, on national issues, be the whole of the nation. Do you want a strong nation behind you or a weak nation behind you? The British conquered so many empires because I don't question crown policy. Are when the country is under threat, at least then close ranks with the crown. And secondly, you want to question, you want to play your politics. Please play your politics. But ask the military people what we need. I have been so happy because for years we have been saying that please give us a longer runway. Please give us a better port. Collateral benefit comes to us. Yes, there are economic benefit too. And economic benefit is not an all or nothing policy. I've been reading articles and people saying, ye to isko milega, ye to isko milega. That's not fair. I checked up from the chief secretary a few days ago. The tender has not even gone out. The replies have not, tender has gone out, expression of interest have gone out. The replies have not come in. The assessment has not been done. Nothing has been awarded. So conjecture can make for good politics. But it cannot make for informed opinion. And secondly, in mountain warfare, they teach you. As a volunteer, I told you I fought in the Kargil War and in Siachen. You don't do a frontal attack unless we did in uh, getting our heights back from Pakistan without crossing the border. But the fact is, if someone is sitting here, you go and sit in the neighboring area. I've shown you another map. Please look at everything. I made this myself. I've color coded it. The black islands, whether you look at Chakfu, Ongkyung, Preparis, Koko, Hambantota, Maldives, they're all areas of Chinese presence. We have been for decades doing our Kaladan project, terminating at the Sitwe port. 105 kilometers from Sitwe, the Chinese have made Chakfu for pumping large volumes of oil and gas so that they don't have to go through Malacca because of the Malacca dilemma. Directly to Chengdu. None of these environmentalists are objecting when trees are cut for Chakfu, where trees are cut for Ongkyung, where trees have been cut for Coco, 3,000-meter runway for Coco Island, where there's very little inhabitant other than military from Myanmar. And suddenly you become holier than thou when it is only Great Nicobar. So then naturally you would wonder, there are so many think tanks or lobby groups sponsored by the ISI in America who end up offering money to many others to publish articles. And there are any number of articles on people who are getting paid to put court cases or such like things by the Chinese also. I don't want to go down that road. It's not my concern whether it's right or wrong. Yes, people who believe in environment can believe in many of these issues. People will say hatching areas of leatherback turtles. Then please read your own reports. You tagged those 150 leatherback turtles. The hatching areas were not here in Galicia Bay before the tsunami. They shifted after the tsunami. If you are talking about trees, I would like to ask you, why are you not bleeding green about the trees that were cut for New York Harbor, which it is today? Why are you not bleeding green about the trees which were cut for Singapore? All development comes at a cost and people balance them. We are a democracy. We have a government who represents the large majority and who decides what's to be done. If a transshipment port is to save us some money, अरे इतना 100 रुपए नहीं बचेगा, 50 बचेगा, कितना भी बचेगा यार, Rome was not built in a day. The development may come in a bit of time. These islands which have come to us are 1,300 kilometers from Indian mainland and 650 kilometers from the Arakan landmass. I've shown it that in a slide. They're closer to the Malay and the Peninsula and the Indonesian landmass than they are to mainland India. How do we bring the fruits of development there? They are not only the tribals there, there are 36,000 other people also. We have to think of them. And they all keep crying. You know what the ex-serviceman used to tell me at Campbell Bay? Sir, hum to aa gaye. Patta mil gaya sarkar se. Our children are all migrating back to the mainland. They have no job opportunities. What about, are they equal recipients of your welfare consideration? Or you're only speaking for the Shompen? The Shompen don't want you to speak for them. They're very shy, they're very happy in their habitat. And the Shompen habitat is 10 times bigger than the Jarawa habitat. I didn't hear you bleed for the Jarawas when the Andaman trunk road was made. So let's keep politics out of this. I am very clear what we need. And we are not talking about, if you don't know the importance of straits, Dr. Google se pooch lo yaar, whether it is Hormuz or Bab al Mandab or it is Malacca. No one is saying that you will. I liked someone, I saw what Aditya Rathi put out. I think lack of cerebral
Dhruv Rathi,
application of mind on my side.
Dhruv
Sorry,
Rathi.
Dhruv Rathi.
Dhruv Rathi.
Sorry. Aditya Rathi is a very dear friend of mine. Pardon me, Aditya. He's a lieutenant general about to become more senior in responsibility. He's from Six Guards and
Sir,
a dear friend.
I'll
Dhruv Rathi.
intervene here, sir. We need to we need to put things into perspective. So you spoke of the Malacca dilemma, which Hu Jintao talked about in 2003, and 80% of the Chinese oil is flowing through the Straits of Malacca. We have seen what Iran has done through the Straits of Hormuz. And I'll ask you to expand later in a later question, sir. But my thing right now, what I want to know, sir, and briefly, is does the Great Nicobar project, because it's very important, escalate China's Malacca dilemma strategically, military, and of course economically?
Let me put it to you differently. Please consult Dr. Google and what I share with you for those who are interested. On one of the slides, I put two arrows for you and I wrote Kra Peninsula. I made these slides myself. Isthmus of Kra. Those two arrows represent the two alignments over the last hundreds of years where Thailand was thinking of making, like the Panama Canal.
Hmm.
The Gulf of Thailand is where the Chinese are boxed in. They want an entry, but that entry comes into the Andaman Ocean, when the Andaman Sea. When you look at the 10-degree channel, that is inside India's territorial waters. So even if there's a Kra Isthmus of Kra or a Kra Canal which crosses, it will. We have India's territorial waters right in front. So the only place south of our island chain, which extend 750 kilometers geographically, 850 kilometers in extent, is south of our southernmost island.
Hmm.
The navigable portion is only 90 nautical miles. I put it on your slide, you would see of the total, and the two figures I've put kilometers and nautical miles because mariners are comfortable with nautical miles. मैं तो फौजी आदमी था when I went there as commander in chief. I was more comfortable with kilometers. So the first figure is kilometers, the second is nautical miles. But in the case of the 6-degree channel, for those who are weak in geography, equator is 0 degrees, what we teach school children, and as you go northward. So the gap between Indonesia and Great Nicobar is the 6-degree channel. The gap between Nicobar group of islands and Andaman group of islands is the 10-degree channel, which you would see. The 6-degree channel has a total width of 166 nautical miles, out of which the navigable portion is only 90 nautical miles. मतलब इतने चौड़े में शिप उस 90 में ही जा सकती है. And 90 nautical miles is the distance between, for people to comprehend, is the distance between Sonipat and little more than Palwal. It is a distance which I may not have bad intent, but someone with ill intent will always wonder that my innocent passage can be interfered with.
Hmm.
But intent means nothing unless deterrence is credible. In military parlance, we often speak of deterrence because credible deterrence makes sure you don't need to go to war. And only soldiers actually know what the cost of war is. We understand while being prepared for war, it's better we don't go to war. उनसे पूछो जिनके घरों में चूड़ियां टूटती हैं. Therefore, if we say that deterrence has to be credible, then we need certain, like mountain warfare, you don't go and sit on top of the mountain or attack him if he's sitting there. You sit on the next mountain. So you can interdict his supplies and he has to get off the mountain. So, like you play this, it's the game of chess. Why has Chinese put all these black marks which I've shown you all around us? People call it a string of pearls, where if you have credible resources, we've got such beautiful islands, then you'll have a cutter which can easily cut those string of pearls. And without a string binding them, there are pearls waiting for the plucking. So it depends how you're looking at it.
Yes.
But but to do all this wishful thinking, you need to be empowered. I would say in Maslow's need hierarchy, our security considerations come first of all. And I would like to ask you, Mayank, I mean, कुछ तो national understanding or consciousness होनी चाहिए. So many people were questioning Sindhur. Why did you stop? Do you know that after Parakram, we did not use the term, academia uses the term, there was a cold start strategy.
Hmm.
You went and deployed for a year. But now, as per media reports, there's some escalatory conundrum in practice. You don't go into war without an end objective in mind, much like the Americans are floundering on today. And therefore, you decide that, all right, I've signaled my intent, my red lines have changed, and hereafter I'm stopping and leaving it to you. I'm ready for the next थप्पड़. अभी तो छोटा ही थप्पड़ दिया है, मुक्का मारने के लिए तैयार हूं. You want to go down that road? Test me. So, but for everyone who was saying how many aircraft were shot down, are you seeing the Americans talking? Are you seeing the Israelis talking? Why aren't you questioning them? They are very clear what national interest is. How morale is calibrated on the social media, how jingoism is played out on the social media. There was one chap, I think Aditya Raj Kaul, who was nearly from NDTV arrested in Israel for showing a photograph of a bunker behind. I'm reading from the media. So therefore, for everyone who wants to play politics with national security, my humble request is, please don't do this. If anything, this transshipment port, ask someone who's been a commander-in-chief and responsible for these islands for 2 years. We need that airport, expanded new airport yesterday. We need that new port yesterday. We need ship repair facilities yesterday. And if there's an economic collateral benefit, so much better for the country. My order of priority is the advice Chanakya gave in the Arthashastra at many places. Secure your borders first, O King of Magad. So I don't know what the question is. It seems foolish. Half-baked information लेके party lines पे लोग positions harden कर रहे हैं. थोड़ा knowledge सीखो beyond the short span of attention of 140 characters of a tweet. Yeah, man, tell me.
Sir, I'll come back to my original position and the original question, sir. Provided, and perhaps in this answer lies the key, I would say, to the whole issue of the ecological concerns being suddenly being raised. Perhaps in this answer lies the key. Sir Malaka Sinno, provided we have the deterrence, sir, as you were saying, that you need the equipment to fight a war. Unless you have a equipment or deterrence, you cannot fight a war. You cannot influence your enemies also. Provided, let's be hypothetical, sir. This whole project is in place, sir. Is this going to escalate China's Malacca dilemma?
Okay, let me ask you the same thing in a different way. Chinese have made so many roads, railways, and airports and helipads opposite us in Tibet.
Mhm.
Has it escalated our Tibet dilemma?
It has, I would say, sir.
See, preparation is not war.
Hmm.
Capabilities take time to build up. Intentions can change very quickly. China, without firing, their political leaders have always felt the acme, and Sun Tzu has said and taught them, the acme of fighting is winning, subduing the enemy without fighting. So how do you subdue him? By saying, I'm so much stronger than you. By tum to lad hi nahi sakte ho. All right. So they are trying intimidation. And what are these instruments of statecraft today? Coercion and compellence. If I can get you as a country to do what I need you to do, I don't have to fight you. And that is what non-alignment was all about. And I wish to remind Mr. Rahul Gandhi, your grandfather started non-alignment. Our Prime Minister today is following Atmanirbharta so that we don't dependent on anyone. When push comes to shove, no one will help you. You are standing alone. And we have to be empowered for that. How do you stand alone? On one leg? So what are we asking? That जैसे उसने तिब्बत में इतना सब बनाया है, हमारे को कुछ तो बनाने दो यार. And secondly, why should there be a dilemma? If your intentions are good, there is no dilemma. But you tell me, when China, out of 12 of its neighbors, 14 of its land neighbors, has solved the border issue with 12. Some on the principle of McMahon line, some on the principle of watershed. It has even solved the border dispute with Nepal and Myanmar on different principles, one with watershed principle, one with McMahon line. But with India, it wants to solve the dispute with neither. Read India's China War, Neville Maxwell, 1963. An Australian, settled in Australia later, he used to be treated like a state guest whenever he visited China. And Chow Enlai said, you have done a great service to the Chinese people by telling the world. He called it India's China War. Yes, but the solutions Neville Maxwell wrote off, and I asked the Chinese ambassador in Colombo in a defense seminar, that when you keep changing the border, the boundary pillars, or you keep changing the contours of your argument, Neville Maxwell quoted Chow Enlai to say that this is acceptable today, that is not acceptable, then how can you have meaningful talk? You can keep having rounds of talks and you'll go nowhere. If the Chinese position keeps changing, it's available online, and the Chinese ambassador said, no any change, Chinese position, no any change. Everyone in that hall knew what he was talking, or the question that was asked of him. So therefore, if he's keeping this problem festering, anyone would say, whether you're from the realist school or the liberal school of international relations, It is to keep a pressure point open for India.
Hmm.
He's not basing armies there. He's only basing capability. So supposing we, for our own economic gains, put a transshipment port there, which has collateral benefits for our military, why should it be a dilemma for anyone who has no malintent? You can keep a pressure point open on the Himalayas. I shouldn't open a pressure point जहां मेरे पास है. अरे बाबा राजा की जान तोते में है. ये आपकी जान है उधर हम भीग सकते हैं. मगर अगर आप मेरे को पाँव ही मत दो तो मैं दबाऊंगा किस चीज से तोते का गला.
सही बात है सर।
Please understand national security. We are talking about the primordial need of Maslow. Paid or 229 Shompen ko dur ki baat hai. We understand the welfare of Shompens better than you. Our territorial army boys used to interact with them and give them whatever they wanted. कभी medical evacuation होती थी तो हमारे लोग उनको evacuate करते थे treatment के लिए. तो आप दिल्ली में बैठे शॉम्पेन का वेलफेयर नहीं सोचते जितना अंडमान निकोबार कमांड सोचता है. Even Andaman Nicobar administration doesn't have the wherewithal which we provide through our aeroplanes and helicopters and our ships to move people in case of necessity. And it's all of the nation approach. We fight under one flag. The administration and us are part of the same thing. We learn so much from the administration, who have continuity in a manner that we don't have.
Sir,
So it's
I'll
all
come
of
in
the
here, sir.
nation.
I'll come in here, sir, because this dissent, I would say, not informed dissent, uninformed dissent, whatever you might call it. Now that gets
Politicized dissent.
politicized dissent, sir, correctly put, sir. That is amplified through various social media influencers who got nothing to do with the army, nothing to do with security. They speak on each and every issue. But in this age of social
Very,
media,
very ignorantly, many of them.
and mischievously, sir, there is a
Mischievously.
certain
Very
mischief
true.
behind
Very
it,
true.
sir, which is very
Yes.
dangerous. So there's certain very influencers.
Because
There,
आम आदमी तो पढ़ के सच समझेगा.
सर वो तो वही समझेगा जो उसके सामने प्रस्तुत किया जा रहा है, पेश किया जा रहा है. वो उसके
बिल्कुल
पास
सही.
कोई दूसरा मोड
बिल्कुल
तो है
सही.
नहीं, सर. बिकॉज आर्मी
जी.
और बाकी लोग तो अब आप यू कैन नॉट कीप ऑन स्पीकिंग अबाउट इट डिलिबरेटली. यू हैव वर्क टू डू. These people have got
Yes.
nothing to do except influencing people. Sir, तो there is a social media influencer called Dhruv Rathi. You spoke about him earlier. I don't watch videos, sir, but I know there is a certain influencer, and his tweets are being used liberally by these illiberal people, I will call them. And there are 3 points which I want you to respond to basically as a military tactician, analyst, strategist, sir. First,
Just
comparing
a
the
military soldier, that's all.
sir, comparing the width, that is 200 kilometers. They say that the Great Nicobar project, that area is around 200 that wide, 200 kilometers, whereas the Strait of Hormuz is only 50 kilometers. One, sir, they're basically trying to denigrate the GNP when you talk of Strait of Hormuz. And secondly, most of the shipping traffic doesn't even come in a 50-kilometer range of Indian islands. Therefore, they sort of deny the checkpoint theory. Thirdly, and even if we somehow do the impossible and block it, how much more expensive will this alternative route be? I'm sure they're averring to alternate through Sunda and Lombok. Sir, am I correct to say that these uninformed positions spreading misinformation, because it is very important that people know the correct position? I would request you to remove this fog of misinformation which is being spread, I would say, very mischievously.
Mayank, you asked a very important question. I read that tweet. It was not tweet, it was an audio thing in a tweet. Uh, and I was just amused. आप कुछ नहीं पिक्चर देख लें यार. एक इंग्लिश की पिक्चर थी जिसमें एक किरदार बोलता है, फूलिश फेलो ही ब्रिंग्स अ नाइफ टू अ गन फाइट. इफ यू लुक एट लड़ाई कैसे शुरू हुई, चलो किसी ने पत्थर उठाया, दूसरे ने छुरा बनाया, तीसरे ने तलवार बनाई. तो कैवलरी यूज्ड टू कैरी lances. Genghis Khan made the stirrup, so your bow and arrow could be fired from a moving horse, and he swept past very fast. Then came the machine gun. We've all heard of the charge of the Light Brigade, First World War. Horses don't charge in front of machine guns. So the cavalry got replaced by armor. Tanks are gaye. So this is a cat and mouse game. But to say कि वो Hormuz इतना है, ये इतना है, अरे grow up यार, look at the range of weapons today. I saw Rahul Gandhi's tweet. He's standing at that lighthouse, which is now submerged in water after the tsunami. If you stand there, we have a military post there. You can see the ships passing. So in that 90 nautical miles, you can see some of them passing with your visual eyes. And I'm not saying take the knife and go and stab that ship. But when you have a military, if even in the development program, that internet pe jo hai, I'm sure what worries people who don't have good intent is that the southernmost part of the island is earmarked for the defense. And that southernmost part, your BrahMos missile, I'm not even talking of extended range BrahMos, has a certain range which you can hit the other side. Your extended Pinaka has ranges. Your guided missiles have ranges. Today, it doesn't matter what range, because if range was a consideration, you would not be going after countries who have nuclear weapons or are aspiring for nuclear weapons. So I think that's a foolish argument. And I pity those cerebral content of those who are content making those arguments without getting educated on the subject,
So
the so-called subject matter expert.
So then I'll shift to the more cerebrally developed people with more
Right.
cerebral issues. Now, Survival International, which is London-based advocacy group, has released
Okay.
its annual report mentioning how India plans to sacrifice one of the world's most isolated tribes to create the new Hong Kong. This is a 2025 report. Now, they have been most vocal global voice opposing this project. The report declares the initiative as genocidal and asks for immediate abandonment. Now, additionally, 39 worldwide genocide experts, as they call themselves, have written an open letter on behalf of Survival International, characterizing the project as a death sentence for the Shompen tribe. So now we have seen this pattern of these foreign NGOs interfering in every major infrastructure, be it infrastructure, nuclear, or any other in project of national importance, which hurts India's growth story and the strategic interests. What do you see as their end game? What are they trying to do?
Mayank, again, it's amusing. This London-based think tank. Today, in complex ownership patterns, you don't know who owns whom. Companies have multi-layers of ownership. It's difficult to trace out. But ये जो पेड टट्टू है ना, इनके अटरेंसेस से क्लियर हो जाता है इनको पैसे किसने दिए हैं। जो पैसे दिए हैं, इनकी ये आवाज कहाँ थी जब इंग्लैंड ने डियोगाशिया के ओरिजिनल इनहेबिटेंट्स को साइड में करके अपना बेस रखा। इनकी ये आवाज कहाँ थी व्हेन द ब्रिटिश, as per the Independence of India Act, wanted to retain Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And Mountbatten realized that ये तो आजादी के लिए हाँ नहीं करेंगे as per the timelines given to me, unless this goes through. I mean, Pakistan was claiming it, India was claiming it. So they were compelled to leave them. Where is their voice when so many other things can happen? So I will not even go down that way. I will not even give credence to what they are saying. It is all motivated. The words they have used themselves. The Shompen, they're a very sensitive, I mean, not sensitive, the correct word is shy, peace-loving people who like to stay away. Like I said, they have contact with people. The Nicobaris are fully assimilated. The North, trust the government, यार. ये जो पॉलिसी है जिसमें नॉर्थ सेंटिनल में 15 सेंटिनलीज को हमने प्रोटेक्टेड रखा है, अरे भैया यूपीए की पॉलिसी है ना, इफ यू वांट टू लुक इन पार्टी लाइन तुम ही क्रेडिट ले लो. But the way we have looked after our Shompens, there's no one in the world who has looked after. What did America do to the Native Americans? You put them on camps. And then what about the smallpox and the cholera outbreak? When you put them onto a ship or you distributed those blankets? अरे डॉक्टर गूगल से पूछ लो कि नहीं नहीं वो हमने नहीं दिया, हमारे ट्रेडर ने दिया था, ये तो ब्रिटिश ने बांटा था. See, so let's people preach. It's like if Mayank puts out a great tweet, the more people who are objecting to it means आपने सही बोला होगा या कहीं दुखती रग पे हाथ रख दिया होगा. कोई डिलेमा सोच रहा है तो डिलेमा उसका इंटेंट शायद सही नहीं होगा. Yes, we so wonder because our energy security is tied up through some of these. So there can be a concern and there can be a dilemma, and there's a difference between a concern and a dilemma.
So even Tibet, the way they have disturbed the freshwater bodies, it's a continuous process. Brahmaputra pe interference hai, building
Yeah, what about
dams
that dam?
around the Brahmaputra. I have
Why
not
aren't you
seen
talking
anybody.
about that?
Nobody talks about it.
उधर क्यों नहीं आवाज? Exactly. Forget that. What about the Uyghur people?
Hmm.
What about the mosques which have been raised and put into public toilets? What
Hmm.
about the people who are interned for life in torturous and tortured in those conditions?
Hmm. Then we
ये
see
जो
the
sanctimonious हो रहे हैं और हमें सिखा रहे हैं,
then we see the protest in the Kalapakam nuclear project. Suddenly, a nuclear project starts, and then
these are
there are
all,
groups which come
these
out.
are all, we are proud. Like I said, I tell someone, we are proud of being a country where you preserve your right to protest. The right to protest has been taken away in many regions. Yes, the fact that there's a protest at Kalapakkam, yes. And I think that's the strength of our country. You protest, your concerns would be heard, they would be ameliorated in the manner possible. But like Aristotle said, the welfare of the many overrides the cost of the few. So the state which has been elected to meet the aspirations of the people, whoever may be the party in power, has a job and a responsibility to fulfill. And the primordial of those responsibilities is the security of our borders. The threats keep changing. अगर तुम फौज का एक हाथ पीठ के पीछे बांध दोगे से कि अब हमारे को डिफेंड कर दो, then it becomes an increasingly difficult task.
So protest is okay. I understand the protest. I totally agree that protest is it is the essence of democracy. But then you use the channels of the institutions built to basically protect those in protests. Come out,
Yes. Have you
verify.
read the book by those two Chinese colonels? They use lawfare. Your legal systems, there's a term they've coined, lawfare. Your legal systems to slow you down.
Sir, even then the National Green Tribunal has given the green signal to a project, and then you say then it
Precisely.
is not correct. So it is सिर्फ मेरी मर्जी से सर दुनिया नहीं चल सकती है. It is the law of the land and the government in power.
Mayank,
जी सर.
I will tell you, my co-brother he's a senior advocate, very well renowned, Mr. Vivek Tanka. I was posted in Sikkim for 2 years. So, लोग आते हैं, रिश्तेदार आते हैं, अच्छा, you are in Gangtok. So we took them to Nathula. And he asked me, he says, Ajay, इस तरफ तो इतनी बुरी सड़क है इंडिया की तरफ, चाइनीज की तरफ बॉर्डर पे हाईवे आ रहा है 4 लेन, क्यों? आई सेड हमें विवेक भाई हमें क्लियरेंस नहीं मिलता. इसे क्या मतलब है? 9 साल से फॉरेस्ट क्लियरेंस की परमिशन मांग रहे हैं हमारी जो सड़क टूट गई है बारिश में, मडस्लाइड में, उसको ठीक करने के लिए कि ये पेड़ नहीं काट सकते. पेड़ तो है नहीं, फ्लोरा फॉरा नहीं डिस्टर्ब कर सकते. एंड दैट टाइम सुप्रीम कोर्ट की तारीख तारीख पे तारीख, like they showed in that movie, I'm forgetting whichever one, Munna Bhai or whatever. So similarly, he went back, and I think it was along with Indra Jai Singh, they approached the Supreme Court, and this empowered committee got formed. And 6 months later, we got our clearance that look, the Supreme Court doesn't have time to go into this, and there's an empowered committee which will inform them, and the stamp of the Supreme Court would be given after they are satisfied. Similarly, there's a Green Tribunal. If they've finally given an approval, there are many considerations. There's a parliamentary act that 65 kilometers of the border, none of these acts, coastal zone regulations and acts apply because it is your security zone. अदरवाइज नहीं तो ये यही करते रहेंगे, हम तो ट्रेंच भी नहीं बना पाएंगे, बंकर नहीं बना पाएंगे. दुश्मन देखो दूसरी तरफ क्या कर रहा है. So if I put it to you, then you look at that slide which I've given you, isn't all of that within the 65-kilometer belt? When we went to UK, they said there is no point in UK which is more than 75 miles from the sea. That means the east-west breadth of UK is not more than 150 miles. There is no island in our 836 islands which is more than 50 kilometers from the sea, 30 miles. Seen? So, we are not saying कि डिफेंस जोन में 65 किलोमीटर पूरा आइलैंड ही ले लो, बट जहां ये सड़क जा रही है, प्लीज लुक एट द रोड. There, I told you those hamlets, 100 people, 80 people, 120 people. There, where does development take place? Along roads, ना? आज एक्सप्रेस वे को आप बाउंड क्यों कर रहे हो दोनों तरफ से? नहीं तो हर एक सड़क पे लोग उधर ही आके अपनी दुकानें लगा देते हैं, वो दुकानों का पार्किंग आपकी सड़क पे आ जाता है, योर ट्रैफिक स्टार्ट्स क्रॉलिंग. So today these expressways which have come in wonderfully so, if I may say, they all make sure that your transit is not hindered. Look at this road which is north-south road which I put the slide for you. The north-south road has all these hamlets which I told you. So other than the tehsil, all the people are residing here. So when you talk of the 229 Shompen, those Shompen are not coming where the population is residing from 1963 and 65. तो अगर जहां पॉपुलेशन डिसाइड कर रही है उसी के चारों तरफ आपने रोड अच्छी कर दी, उधर इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन इज ऑलवेज अ बिग प्रॉब्लम. इफ यू पुट अ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन प्लांट, इफ यू पुट अ पॉट, तो फिर आप कोरल रीफ की बात करने लगते हैं, फिर आप लेजरबैक टर्टल की बात करने लगते हैं. वेयर वर लेजरबैक टर्टल हैचिंग बिफोर द सुनामी? You have geotagged them, 150 of them. I read this study on yesterday when you said you want to, when you rung up yesterday, I said, yeah, sabse pehle you may ask me a question on leatherback turtles. So I also consulted Dr. Google to get better educated or get more current on these issues. And I think in Maslow's need hierarchy, the basic level of need, जब तक वो satisfy नहीं होगी, जब तक चाणक्य ने जो एडवाइस दिया था वो किंग ऑफ मगध, जब तक तुम्हारे बॉर्डर सिक्योर नहीं है, तो तुम बाकी ये जो वी गिव यू द राइट टू प्रोटेस्ट, वी मीन्स द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया, इट गिव्स यू द राइट टू इनैक्ट दीज लॉज, कोस्टल जोन रेगुलेशन, बिकॉज our borders are inviolable. उसको तो मत छेड़ो यार. Threat keeps changing. With the changing threat, enable your army to contest, to have credible deterrence.
Sir, Constitution gives us the right to protest and the army gives us the security to protest. Sir, you secure the border, the defense forces secure the border,
All our
air,
uniformed services,
and,
not only the army,
the navy, sir. I
everyone
said,
put together, our
sir,
administration, police services.
sir, everybody, you give us the freedom, the environment to protest, the security to protest, and उसी पे conclude करना चाहेंगे, sir.
And the people empower us. We fight the good fight.
Sir, it's
It's not
all.
Vietnam where the people are protesting. Why are you there? It is not that senator who asked Pete Hegseth in Congress a few days ago, which is also going around, that my constituents want to know आप क्यों लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं ईरान की. हमारे यहाँ तो जब मोबिलाइजेशन होता है लोग टीका लगाते हैं.
So that is the whole of a nation approach. That is the best example of a
Yes.
whole of a nation approach. And we'll have to conclude on that, sir. And thank you for sparing time on such an important issue, which needs to go out to the people
Yes.
so that they understand the truth, the facts behind the issue. Thank you so much, sir.
Mayank, I must thank you because after retiring, I don't look back. I don't even think of these. Yes, when I see some of these people with ignorant views and agendas, which are, to my mind, paid for, my blood boils. So when you rung up yesterday, sir, I want to interview you, I said gladly. I normally don't even go on television or go anywhere. There are people wiser than me to do all that and carry it forward. Those in service, it's their legacy. But on this issue where I've served for 2 years, I'm happy to put things in the light which I remember them as. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind, sir.